Welcome to the Brain Software Podcast. I'm Chris Thompson, and this is episode 228. Today, NLP and hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel and I are going to discuss a full 1/3 of your life, which is called sleep. So stay tuned and stay awake.
Disclaimer. Last night I dreamed I was teaching a hypnosis course at Charbonnel Lounge, St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. But it was only a dream, so there's nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. And I refuse to end this disclaimer by saying Lucci.
Hey man, what's snoozing, Scro? I'm just chilling in the chillery up here on level 1967, bag. But the most important question of all is this one. Whatever happened to that laid-back 60s Allen Ginsberg kind of feeling when we all used to know and love each other, Pouch?
We are not witches! And these are days of victory.
Yes.
And welcome to the podcast.
Yes,
so
exactly,
please
yes.
join me in welcoming to the hypnotic world epicenter a man who strives for the purity of trance. The Field Marshal of Trans-Hypnotic Trench Warfare. And the Keith Richards of hypnosis.
It's just Jimmy Wanker.
So funny you just said that. Oh, Mike Mandel.
Yes, boys and girls, we are rocking. I am exactly 8 days away from my 70th birthday. I refuse to accept it. I'm feeling young. I'm feeling fit. I was cranking out the Hindu squats yesterday. By the time this goes live, I will be
You'll be
in
71.
my 8th decade on Earth. Not 80 years old. Don't get it wrong. I'll be completed 70 trips around the sun. Just amazing. Feeling awesome.
Feeling fine. All right. So let's
Enter in
get
promotion.
going. We're going to talk about sleep and dreams in this podcast.
The morpheus factor.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And let's go with the 3 think tank words, which we can get out of the way with ridiculous speed and whistling. There we go. Okay, what do we have, Mike? Think tank words.
That
These
was
are
just
three
the girl
words.
with flaxen hair. It was used in a CBC radio documentary called Sleep and Dreaming, the Morpheus Factor, back in the early 1980s. Of course, with the recall, I instantly
And
have
of course, you whistle it with perfect
pitch.
key,
It was done by Oseo Tomita, although it was actually, I don't know who wrote the damn
I have
thing.
no idea. I just heard you say somebody's last name Tomato.
Tomita.
Okay.
Kind of wonder why you'd be mocking someone for having a last name Tomita.
It sounded like tomato when you said
You
it.
say
to me, because I was
tomato, I
looking at
say
the notes here.
tomita.
All right, let's do the think tank words.
All right,
what
bring
are
'em on.
they?
Statistics,
Okay. so-
contrary,
all right.
and nebulosity.
Well, there's a word I don't know.
Whoa.
Statistics, I am well versed with that phrase. And when I think of
Too well.
statistics, I'm not going to get into the, what it is, but statistics makes me think about how people can distort things. The truth can be ridiculously distorted with statistics. Good use of them by a skilled person who wants to deceive you, or improper use by somebody who's ignorantly applying
Who
them.
was it who said 3 kinds of lies? Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm
that's
glad
what-
you don't say statistics.
Statistics or
Statistics.
sadistics.
Yeah, my manager years ago was going to Acapulco, and he kept calling it
Acapulco.
Acapulco. Like Al Capone,
Right.
yeah, Acapulco.
Yeah. So statistics, I'm thinking of
Lying.
can be just distortion. That's the best way I can say
Okay,
it.
that's
What do
great.
you
So
think of?
generalization, deletion, distortion. Statistics, I think of people, using them to prove their point. Well, it might be a red herring. They might be bringing out stuff that is really implying causation that is not there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We're on the same page, boys and girls, and that's why we take it to our second word, which is contrary.
Contrary, there you go. Contrary to popular belief, right? Again, contrary makes me think of being different. I'd like to be different. I don't want to be the same as everyone else. I want to have different skills, different knowledge, different brain.
Well, you better start
brain
by
software. There
putting
we
your
go.
iPhone down every once in a while if you want to be different, son.
All right, there we go. Thanks.
So, contrary. And then that's not contrarian, though. Being contrarian is just being a mismatcher.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always. I see that in fives a lot. 1-5 family member. He'd do this thing. So anything you'd ask, he'd quickly try to figure out what you're asking about, and then he'd do the opposite automatically. Oh, do you think it's important to be physically fit? No. On the contrary,
Because he's guessing that you're going to say, yes,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
important. No, I don't think it's important at all.
How do you spell contrary under those conditions?
How do you spell contrary under those conditions?
I'm thinking D-I-C-K. I'm not going to do a dick chant, although I certainly could in a hypothetical way. So so the contrary is just offering an alternative, maybe the exact opposite.
Yeah. So we'll use that in this podcast, contrary to popular belief. Or what could you do that's different?
Yeah.
And that actually will tie in nicely with the idea of sleep, because if you're
And
not
it
getting a
won't
great
tie-
night's sleep, you want to do something that's
But it
maybe
won't tie in with
contrary to-
nebulosity.
Well, yeah. What the heck does that even mean?
Nebulosity, it's when something is visibly obscure because of fog.
Oh, okay.
Nebula, so it's fog or distortion. Or,
So when something is unclear,
gee, that's an easier way of saying it than I did.
there you go. Yeah, your description
But
was,
it's-
again, it's a bit more nebulous,
No, but it's
wasn't
unclear because of something.
Okay, unclear
You know what I'm
because
saying?
because
Let's-
there's a cause.
Let's look this damn thing
So
up.
again, okay, can you do that?
I can do anything this
Oh,
time
here we
around.
go. You can just
Well, I haven't got any glasses, so you're going to have to
don't
do
even worry
it.
about it. Here,
Yeah.
here, we'll do it live on the fly.
Yeah, we're going to do it live on the fly.
Hey Siri. Oh
Hey
wait.
Siri, what does nebulosity mean? Hey Siri, what does nebulosity mean?
Oh, yours worked with my phone, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's why she's not
quality
listening to...
or state of being nebulous. Oh, that's really
helpful. That's helpful. Thanks.
But if I
Shut
click
the
on that
pod bay
one,
doors, Hal.
if I click
Yeah.
on that, then we get the definition of nebulous. Oh, relating to nebular. Oh, that's really helpful too. I'm just finding that this dictionary app is
We'll
useless.
edit all this out.
Yeah, let's just move on.
I've been staring at myself on the monitor up until now, and I finally caught myself. So I refuse to do an intervention to stop myself doing it because I think it's fulfilling some sort of deep narcissistic need that I'm generally unaware of consciously. So let's get now to the talking points. We will endeavor to put the statistics in a contrary way, though they are nebulous.
Without it being too vague and cloudy.
Thank you for saying
There we
vague.
go.
Paul Moyer says vague.
Vague.
V-E-G, vague.
Just
They're the
vague.
same people who say, oh, go and get a dozen eggs. Eggs. It's not egg. It's not that illness, an egg. It's an egg and vague. It's not eggs and vague. The things I have to deal with. You can tell I'm getting older because this stuff really pisses me off, and it's so minor. I know it's
We've
minor.
already done 2 full episodes on pet peeves, so
Okay, yeah, we're getting off that.
man.
Okay, so here's the talking points. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about sleep and dreaming and the Morpheus factor, which is dreams. Not Morpheus's brother, Thanatos, who was the spirit of death. So, coincidence? I think not. Here's our medical disclaimer. We'll do this again at the end. We're giving out information here that is being culled from the web and also from our personal experiences. We are not telling you to do any of these things. This is purely for your education. Whether you try to do these things or not, or implement them in your own lives, is entirely up to you. You have the right to take control of your own health. But we're not telling you to do any of this. We're telling you always check with your doctor first.
We would never tell you to do any of this stuff.
That's right. So let's talk about sleep and dreaming.
Okay.
First of all, a lot of people don't realize good quality sleep and dreaming as well are essential for your health.
Oh, totally. Aren't there studies that show that if you deprive people from sleep, whoa, Voxer
Stuff really comes out.
If you deprive people from sleep after a certain period of time, they essentially go insane, right?
Well, they do.
Or they demonstrate the qualities of insanity, and they go back to normal when they get sleep.
Yes, and it's essential, as you said, for your mental health and also for your physical health. You cannot heal and recover without proper rest. I'm always astounded by those dicks who brag about how little sleep they get, as though it's just a badge of honor. Well, I get by on 4 hours a night, and I'm thinking, yeah, you're dick.
Good for
You're
you.
dick. You know, when you're a kid, you want to stay up late all the time. When you get older, you want to sleep in all the time and not have to stay up late.
It's like
I
honestly think that a lot of people who use it as a badge of honor how much they work and how little sleep they get. They want to be validated. I mean, I guess it comes down to the 6 human needs, right? People want to feel significant. And in this case, by saying, well, I sacrifice my health, they don't actually say that, but that's the implication. In order to go and raise money for the family, et cetera, I get by on 3 hours of sleep a night. Oh, you're so significant. Find a better way to be significant. Get proper sleep.
Flip it. Let's use the word contrary here. Here's the contrary. Yeah. Brag about how little work you do and how much sleep you get. That's the one I brag about.
That's exactly. I work 1 day a week. Well, actually, I don't. But
no, but it's Jay was asking me about this today.
I do like to be able to say now, I wake up when I want to.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
and
wonderful.
that's one of the keys, because when we look at sleep cycles in a minute, you'll see that's what enables you to awaken refreshed. Because if you're
Great
spending
point.
a third of your life asleep,
Theoretically,
and if you're a
right, 8 hours
hypnotist,
a
you're
day.
helping other people spend even more time asleep, although
Yeah.
we know it's not. Brain cycles during sleep. Your brain runs through a sequence of changes about every 90 to 100 minutes. That's on average. That
is
is
your
one sleep
circadian
cycle. So you start to fall asleep, you drop down through the different brainwaves that we'll look at, and you get through high alpha, low alpha. You're coming out of beta, down to theta, down to delta, and then you come back out again. You actually awaken briefly every 90 to 100 minutes. And that's when people say, oh, I woke up because I had to use the washroom. Well, no. You woke up anyway, and then your brain noticed you had to use the washroom, and you got up and went back to
That's
sleep.
a good point.
All is true.
Yeah.
And all through the night, you wake up briefly about every 100 or 90 to 100 minutes, typically only a couple of seconds, maybe long enough to just turn over and right back to sleep again.
Yeah.
And a new cycle starts. That was very comforting.
Speaking of
Yeah.
turning over, I
And
think
we
you,
are.
you mentioned this at some point.
Yeah.
In a podcast a long time ago. I'm going to ask you about it to remind me, and I'm sure our
I'm
viewers
afraid what I
slash
might have
listeners.
admitted to. What?
You said that there's something in the inner ear mechanism of the brain, or it's not even a real.
To tell you to turn over?
Yeah,
No, it's
exactly.
not. It's
that.
in the nose.
It's in the nose.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about that.
And my source is the Reader's Digest book, I Am Joe's Body.
Okay, that's interesting.
And it broke down all the different parts of your body, the enzymes you produce in your liver and so on. But it said the nose, actually, when you
Nose,
lie in a
when to
certain
turn.
position, the blood will start to pool. And you're not getting post-mortem lividity or anything here. But the nose will start to indicate in the nerves in your nose where the blood is pooling, time to turn over.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
And I got a big nose, so I'm turning over a lot and
Because,
really
of course,
well.
I'm not suggesting that you should start to pay conscious attention to this and let it really annoy you.
Shut up.
No,
My nose is getting itchy.
Don't
so
do
I'm
that.
talking about it. So you get your 4 types of brain waves during sleep. So you're starting in this beta wave. Beta is like 12 hertz, say 12 cycles per second, like up to 18 or something. It's really high. High, well, not compared to things like terahertz waves, but it's high. And the problem is, beta is your wide awake functioning state. But I had a thing once, a piece of software that did the bilateral stimulation, both auditory and visual. And it could take you down. We used it on a plane to England once, went into high alpha and had started to daydream, and then low alpha. It would take you into theta as well. But I tried the beta wave to be wide awake. Put it on beta, the thing's flashing, my brain's going blah, 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 blah. When the cycle came to an end, like 14 minutes later,
Blasting
I'm sitting there
headache.
with Gary Fu
Yeah.
on the plane. I had almost like a panic attack, which I don't get. I was
Bring me
so
a glass of water.
have a glass of water, please. I'm starting to panic. I was getting anxiety. It erupted. It was putting me in fight, flight, or freeze mode.
That's
So
freaking-
never again. But you go down through high alpha. You want to go in alpha wave. Even Kreskin got this right. He said, sit there, zone out, daydream. You produce an alpha wave right away. But low alpha, you'll start to dream. And as you're drifting into the next brainwave pattern, you then get into theta. Theta is something we'll look at in a second. But if you are deprived of that alpha wave that produces sleep and produces dreams, you will suffer mentally. If you're
Because-
deprived of delta, the deep one, which is 2 to 4 hertz, you'll suffer physically because that's where your physical body.
That's where the healing is happening.
That's where
right?
the
Just
healing
like
happens.
Why we say Esdale state is great for physical healing.
Brilliant.
And sleep too. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So you've got a couple of kinds of brainwaves. You've got NREM. NREM means no rapid eye movement. And when you're in that, your brain runs slowly. It's like it's ticking over like a laptop or, an iPad that's closed but still on. And your heart rate and your blood pressure drop as well in NREM. Now, then you come up near the surface and you have these dream cycles and the REM switch is on, rapid eye movement. Your eyes are going through.
And this is where people make the mistake. They think that REM is deep sleep.
And
it isn't.
It isn't. Rapid eye movement is near the surface. And that's why you're remembering your dreams right when you wake up because you've just gone through a freaking dream cycle.
Yes.
At that time. Now, if we look at this in human Givens terms, Griffin and Tyrrell out of Cambridge, England, the two psychologists, this is a really interesting thing because they believe that in the REM state, our eyes are going all over the map, we're metaphorically discharging emotional arousal from the previous day. So anger that hasn't been resolved, sexual arousal that hasn't been gone. People want to meet and have social intercourse and that hasn't been dealt with. Anyway, what happens? I can't keep a straight face. I'm really giving it my best try. Got it. So what happens is the depotentiation, your brain is removing all of this emotional arousal through metaphor, just like in hypnosis.
Yeah.
So if you're not allowed to stop smirking,
I'm
at
laughing
me,
because of a specific Facebook post that I'm going to bring up in a moment. Go ahead.
no. Okay. The brain activity and dreaming. So if you are deprived of dreaming, you will start to have dreams in your daily life. You'll start to hallucinate. Are you hallucinating now?
No. Well, yeah, sort of.
Okay,
yeah.
go bring it up now.
Okay, so
get it out of the
just
way.
because
I'll be drinking this ordinary
about,
coffee.
We were talking about dreams, and dreams happen in the REM state when you're fairly close to the surface, and that's why you tend to remember them, like you said. So, funniest post yesterday in the Facebook group, in our MMHA Facebook group, one of our members posted that his wife, who's never met
I
you,
saw this.
but I guess knows who you are, probably because she's seen videos and stuff
Well, I'm
of
a
her
huge
husband
star,
watching them. And I don't remember all the details, but I just remember that you and some other guy that's connected to their family ran a taco shop.
Yes.
And
Exactly,
and
yes.
somebody had come in to ask some questions about the whereabouts of a person.
And offered her a taco.
And you said, "Here, have a taco."
Yeah.
He was just like,
Yeah.
"Have a taco." Just thought it was so funny.
Now, this
Have a
is all
taco.
very-
It's so you.
Very Freudian, if you
Yeah.
think this all through. And I expect you all will, trying to
That's
figure
so
out what the hell I'm
weird.
talking about. Brilliant, brilliant. So the
Have a
NREM,
taco.
NREM is slow. We've said that the hypnagogic state is part of sleep. And the hypnagogic state is the state as you're going into sleep. So your brain is slowing down and all your senses shut off. Now, not surprisingly, Chris, your visual sense shuts off first.
Right.
Because your eyes are shut. Remember, sleeping is the only activity you do where in order to make it happen, you pretend it's happening.
That is
So you lie there.
true.
I thought about this. You lie down, you close your eyes and pretend you're asleep.
That is, yes, because
Exactly,
I
yes.
use the as if frame all the time. I
Yeah.
want to
Well, I would-
imagine.
I would
I'm
too if I were
already-
you.
Imagine that I'm already having. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we're having
Back to Shania Twain.
I just wanna
Oh,
point
sorry,
out-
we weren't
hold on, I
talking
just
about
want
her.
to point out we're at work right now.
Okay, touch
We're
me
at
for any
work
reason.
right now. So, what was I saying?
Some of Shania
Oh,
Twain.
the as if frame. We'll get into this, I'm sure, more when
better
when
not.
I'm letting you drive the bus here
That's a
metaphorically.
mistake.
But I use the as if frame pretending I'm already falling asleep,
Sure.
and it helps me actually accomplish that for power naps or actual sleep at nighttime.
Brilliant. And as this hypnagogic state, it's closely related to trance. You can throw in suggestions at that point. But remember, I said the visual shuts off first, of course.
And what
But
shuts
the
off last?
auditory
The
sense shuts off
auditory.
last,
Yeah.
which is why some of the sounds in the room or on the radio can bleed and find their way into your dream.
dreams. Get out of my.
Brain is slowing down. Now, what about the hypnopompic state, Chris?
Well, the hypnopompic state. So this is when we're coming back up from sleep. We have the It's easier to remember it by hypnagogic. Go is in the word. Hypnagogic.
Go to sleep.
Going to sleep. Hypnopompic is on. I don't know why pompic. It makes me think of firefighters.
It brings
or something.
it brings
on
me
the
to
way
Pomp and
back up.
Circumstance,
Yeah.
March number 2, that
Yeah.
we use in AOH by Sir Edward Elgar. When we give everyone the certificates.
Yes.
Pomp and Circumstance.
Yes.
So if you're waking up,
Like
you're hearing
excitement, you're
Elgar.
getting back
Yeah.
to-
Absolutely irrelevant to anything we're looking at here.
That's right. But that's how you remember hypnagogic
you can get
versus hypnopompic.
hypnopompic hallucinations. Maybe
Totally.
more. And it said most of them, the vast majority, are visual. Now, I want to mention this because I've done some serious thought on this. When I was young, when I was a teenager and living a pretty crazy life in the late 60s, early 70s, that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, remember we're coming out of the 60s. That should tell you everything. I got some of these hypnopompic hallucinations that were mind-blowing. I'll tell you 3 of them really quick. My bedroom, I had a Jimi Hendrix black and white poster on the wall, playing guitar. I woke up one night, wide awake. I was in a hypnopompic state, and there was an arm sticking out of the Jimi Hendrix poster holding a big thread, and there was a tarantula on it. And I looked, and it ran up the thread along the wall behind my head, and I was like this, looking to see where it went. The second one I had was maybe a month later. I woke up, and there was a chest of like a pirate's chest at the end of my bed, and there's a freaking spider on it, the size of a Frisbee.
Oh, wow.
And as I watched, it walked through the air towards me on an angle, and I watched it pass over my head, and it disappeared when it touched the wall. Now, I know they weren't really there, but that was as vivid and clear as anything in this room. You've had that too, when you're lying there, and you've told me, it triggers your eyes to see things, hallucinations with your eyes shut that are absolutely vivid.
Yeah. Only when I'm usually for me when I'm going to sleep in the hypnagogic state. What'll happen is I can and it can be spontaneous or sometimes if it's always spontaneous. I don't think I can ever remember going, oh, I want to see a specific thing.
Digression.
I might ask my unconscious mind to present me with something entertaining, but I don't know what it will be.
Right.
And I don't even know what modality it'll be in. So it could be a visual, like I could have my eyes closed.
Right.
And you know those weird reflections that you can kind of see through your reflections.
I know what you mean.
Like you're getting some sensory.
Some diffused light.
And it'll sometimes feel like I'm looking right at somebody's face, super close up. Other times, I can start hearing an orchestra playing.
Wow.
Full, awesome, amazing.
Well, as you know, I was talking to our friend Jay Flesher this morning, and his new name is Rupture Boy because he's had 3 hernia surgeries.
I don't know what that has to do with an orchestra.
And I'm sure he wished he could hear an orchestra instead of having those staples put in.
Okay.
You like the nebulous?
There's the
nebulous connection.
contrary nebulosity.
Absolutely perfect. Okay, now look.
Goodness.
I want to mention also, we said the auditory can bleed over into your dream as well as you're coming out of sleep. The classic example I've told before, I'm lying in bed, high school, listening to, I had Chum FM would come on, CHUM FM.
Yeah.
It used to be a classical station. It changed to a classic rock station. And I'm lying there coming out of sleep and I'm dreaming. I'm on Victoria Park Avenue, north of my apartment. And Dan Zwier, who God bless him, just passed away last year, good friend. He's walking up the street and all these freaking conga drums and bongos are going. And,
Chicago.
Yeah, and Dan's turning towards me going, only the beginning. And the music is swelling. And I said, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? And he's laughing. He just keeps going, only the beginning. Over and over. And then I woke up and it was Chicago, the band, and that was playing on the radio.
Yeah,
and
that's why whenever we would be driving into Toronto, I'd pick you up and I would always play that song.
I know. And I think I was just waking up.
Yeah.
Now your brain starts to wake up in the hypnopompic state and goes back to your beta wave, which is your day-to-day life. I talked about the bilateral anxiety, alpha daydreaming, alpha in hypnagogia, but theta is a highly creative state. And remember I said, I read years ago, I cannot give you the source. I always give the source if I can, but I can't. And the source was the theta wave being a creative wave. All meditators tend to go into a low alpha wave. So when you get maybe high at first, you get good at meditation, you go to an alpha wave. Now, except Zen Buddhist meditators. And they're the ones who talk about a koan, like the sound of one hand clapping and this sort of thing. Meditate on that. And the instructor would come around and smack them in the head with a bamboo stick without warning when they're sitting in the lotus meditating, which I would then immediately take from him and put it somewhere to ensure he never did that again. Because I don't like people hitting me over the head with a bamboo stick under any circumstances, but that's just me. So they get theta waves. Yeah. Everybody else gets alpha. They get theta waves. And the beauty of it is you put someone in a good hypnotic trance, you can take them to a theta wave really quickly, the creativity wave. But I'll show you a sneaky way you can produce a theta wave at will every night.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're going to
so
go
you lie on your back, flat on your back,
Okay.
which of course is out for me with my neck issues.
Yeah.
And so pretend I'm lying on my back. That brick wall is the bed. And I balance my left arm, it doesn't matter, I use my left one, on the bed, the surface of the bed. So my hand's just like this. And I just lie there and start to fall asleep. Now, as soon as I reach the point that I'm drifting off to sleep, my arm starts to drop and I bring it back to vertical again. And that ensures you bounce into theta for a bit. You start to go, and then as your muscle relaxes, you pull yourself back. Then you go into theta again, and you'll learn to stay in theta for longer and longer periods of time and come up with amazing creative solutions to things.
Would you go into theta then, doing the balancing thing?
How much am I getting paid?
With an intention of creatively generating ideas for a certain thing. Okay. So
or Derek Balmer would say,
sure. So set your intention first.
Yep, set your intention first. That's very good, Chris. A good point. I hadn't actually thought of that. I was just enjoying the state, but yours is better. Now, what does it do? Sleep and dreaming. You're getting physical healing and rejuvenation. You know how crap you feel after a bad night's sleep. And the real power here is recognize it's not always just you didn't sleep long enough. It is if you interrupt a sleep cycle, this 90 to 100 minute sleep cycle, before you get to complete it, like with an alarm clock, you're not getting a complete sleep cycle and you wake up and you're jarred and everything. Your brain needs to switch back into the waking world, just like coming out of trance.
So you are saying that with respect to sleep, it is important to get completion.
Complete cycles.
Yes.
And so naturally, if you can wake up normally with the sun, let the light begin to switch off the melatonin in your brain, melatonin production, and begin to put the cortisol in, which makes you wide awake, which is why I love doing a workout now first thing in the morning, because the cortisol is at its highest.
Yeah.
And I've got no hunger or anything. Now, also, sleep will consolidate memories. There's a huge time frame between lower alpha and theta wave, where your brain is consolidating and respooling memories and putting them all together. But we believe also, like human givens, just before that, higher up on the brainwave scale with the high and low alpha, that is when you're depotentiating emotional arousal with metaphors. And the metaphors are stupid. You know, my dad told me once he dreamed he was riding on Highway 401, the biggest highway in North America through the Greater Toronto area, 16 lanes wide. He was riding on that on a bicycle. And he had a rowboat on his back, strapped on with straps. And he woke up. Why the bloody hell did I have that bike?
And it doesn't need to make
doesn't
sense
make any sense
because again, it's metaphorical and it's accomplishing the job of resolving emotions. Now, what was I going to say? I was going to say
idea.
I just resolved it apparently in my head.
Apparently. Okay, we'll edit all this out.
The metaphor the metaphor I was coming at was it's like a computer that's running out of RAM. For example.
Interesting.
Or
Interesting.
You close down apps you don't need anymore in the background, defrag the hard drive, sort of put everything back in
if you
its
have
place.
Cleaned my Mac, you do.
Yeah,
which I have.
Let's
you
say
told me to get it, didn't get it yourself.
It'd be like taking a room and making it nice and tidy again, cleaning up the kitchen after a big meal. You want to wake up in the morning with a clean kitchen, not this horrendous
Beautiful.
mess.
A
And if
clean
you keep
slate.
having horrendous mess upon horrendous mess, you can imagine how metaphorically that would lead to a very messy life, i.e., you don't get enough sleep, you start
That's
to go
really
insane.
good, Chris.
Right?
Really well put. I'm impressed with that. Now, let's talk about sleep paralysis, nightmares, and night terrors, because these are part of it.
Oh, I want to talk about this.
Sleep
for
paralysis, I used to suffer from terribly. And what it is your brain, pontine tegmentum in your brain shuts down the motor neurons that enables you to move while you're asleep. So that if you dream you're fighting a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you're not going to be lashing out in the dark and accidentally injure or kill the person who's in bed with you. So your body is still
imagining it all, but you're not moving.
Right, you're not moving. So in your dream, you're staying still. The muscles are locked down.
Mm-hmm.
But the sequencing problem means your brain wakes up before the muscles do, before the brain switches on the muscles.
So you become aware.
You can't move.
Yeah.
And often there's a terrifying component. You can't move. I mean, with me, it always felt like suffocating somehow. And so I instructed my wife. I said, honey, I can't move if I get this. If you see me twitching, I'm trying to frickin' wake up.
Wake up. Yeah.
So I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, physically move my body like this, back and forth, and say, wake up, you're okay.
You're okay. So, are you sure?
Are you sure? Now, 2 weeks later, I had a huge sleep paralysis one, twitching my leg, like desperately trying to wake up and stuck. And here's how Heather handled it. Are you paralyzed? Puts her hand on me and asks if I'm paralyzed. Yeah, I'm paralyzed. I can't even answer you. I said, move my physical body.
It so makes me think about that book from, we won't say who, but the book where when somebody comes out of trance and you're supposed to look at them with concern
Put
and
your hand on
say,
their shoulder.
Are you
all
okay?
Right?
Are you all right?
Are you all
Yeah.
right? Said with almost a bit of doubt, like insanity. So anyway,
I was going to say it'd be really funny if you're having the sleep paralysis. She just goes and gets a kitchen knife and just goes, Mike, you're going to be okay.
That's horrible, Chris. It's absolutely horrible. Now listen, you're back to the joke.
Oh, yeah.
Why did the two teenage girls castrate their father with a straight razor? It was April Fool's Day.
Oh, it was April Fool's Day.
Listen.
Can I tell you about the two sleep paralysis stories?
I would
that
love to hear them. I would love to.
They're not so much. Well, one is nearly paralysis. One is not so much paralysis, but was like a vocal thing. I don't know how you relate.
Wow.
So I'll go with that one first. I remember because we were living on Merton Avenue, Yonge and Davisville area. It was the first time I moved to Toronto. Yeah, I didn't really know you yet.
Right.
And I was waking up one morning in our condo in Toronto, and I was having a dream, and something was going on, and I wanted to go, woohoo! Like triumphant, shouting. And anyway, I couldn't do it because as I'm lying there in bed, and my wife is beside me, and I guess she's asleep too, and I woke her up as this was happening, I start, instead of woohoo, because I wanted to just shout, and I start getting frustrated that I can't actually do it.
Paralyzed vocal cords.
In my dream, I'm
fantastic
failing to be able to
articulate.
Yeah, articulate. And eventually I woke up enough that I did it really loudly because in my dream I was getting frustrated, right? This is, what's going on here? My mouth's not working. Try again, try again. Finally, I'm awake and I shouted, whoa.
Oh, man, scare her half to death.
What's going on?
And you know, that sleep paralysis thing, I could see how it could happen in the vocal cords as well. It's all muscles, right?
Yeah.
Interestingly, Clive, who you know, Clive,
Yeah.
amazing martial artist, when he was in Canada, he told me he had horrendous problems with sleep paralysis. So I did a 6-step reframe on him to fix it. And typical NLP thing. But he was telling me his were so terrifying, they were multi-layered.
Oh, weird.
So he would be in a room and couldn't move and was paralyzed, sitting in a chair, and then he'd wake up. And it's like, oh, the sleep paralysis was awful. And he opened the door, and there was just a woman's dress standing there behind the door, and it came through and started moving towards him. And he was still having it. It was still going, but he didn't know. He'd get a false
Inception.
awakening.
Yeah.
A false awakening with sleep paralysis. That's
So
terrible.
he was waking up from a dream within a dream.
Yes.
And having the problem in both layers.
Yes, exactly, yes.
The the other sleep paralysis thing I wanted to bring up was one that was more physical in nature. Well, the voice is, I suppose, physical because it's muscle control.
Yeah, said that already. Way ahead of you.
Many years ago, I was probably late 20s. I'm in the cottage, and I go to one of the guest bedrooms to lie down, have a little relaxation. I do some self-hypnosis. And I think I knew you fairly well back then. I was seeing if I could put myself in Esdale even. And somehow what happened is I just remember coming out of it kind of going, I want to get up. I want to get out of the bed now. And I couldn't move my body. Like I couldn't move my limbs. And I eventually did manage to get a leg off the bed, the other leg off the bed, went to stand up and just collapsed to the ground and thought, this is so weird. And I finally came out of it. And then I realized, okay, it wasn't super scary or anything, but it was weird. And I knew it was something related to the self-hypnosis I was doing. But I just fell over. It was totally bizarre. That's only happened to me once.
Completely weird. In fact, let's get into nightmares now. Nightmares are bad dreams that awaken you. That is the criteria. They awaken you. And they're actually in a REM state.
Okay.
So horrible things.
So you're quite close to the surface.
Yeah.
And something scary happens.
Yeah. Bob Gray, who I used to work with, hilarious, who you've heard me mention many times. He had a dream. He was married. Him and his wife were living in the same apartment building. Heather and I were living in, Warden and Shepherd. And don't you go reading ahead on this. No. I see you. I freaking see you, bastard. So anyway, he dreamed there was a guy in a stairwell that was going to terrify him. And he thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do? I'll scare him first. So he goes, whoa, leaps down the stairs head first, bang, gets up again. Oh, the guy's not there. Next landing, whoa.
This is his dream.
And his wife wakes up. Bob, what are you doing? In his sleep, he's going, whoa, whoa, like this. He had another one that was sleepwalking. It was beautiful. Our friend Pete in England. Bob wakes up. His house coat is hanging in the back of the door of their bedroom. He sees it's Pete hanging by the neck dead.
Oh.
And he's going over looking at him. And Carrie says, Bob, what are you doing? He said, Pete, he's hanged himself. Like this, he's dead. And then he just sort of wakes up. Weird. Greg Clark, a kid I knew when I was a kid. Back in the time when everybody smoked, everyone's parents did, and the ashtrays on tables, which is disgusting. Mm-hmm. He'd come in sleepwalking, in his pajamas, pull his pajama pants down, and sit on an ashtray. Think he was in the bathroom.
That's so weird.
This was a common thing with him. Isn't that weird?
Is this real?
No, it's totally real.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Greg Clark was his name. Now, okay, so nightmares are bad dreams that awaken you, but night terrors are far more serious. This is fear or panic in a very deep sleep. So this is in NREM.
Okay.
And you're not dreaming. There's no rapid eye movement, but there's a panic, a terror, a panic attack while you're asleep.
And you won't wake up.
And you can't wake up. But when you come out of it, you can't remember it. You don't know what it was.
So you just have the feeling, but no memory of the cause.
Yeah, you can't remember what it was, but just this
I've never had
horrific thing. Yeah, I've had it a couple of times when I was a kid. Not much. Now, let's get on to insomnia.
What can you do about this, though?
Well, you can do self-hypnosis.
Okay.
All these things, especially if you're working with a client, I'd be going back looking for an initial sensitizing event and seeing if there was something that needed to be cleared in the past. You could do it with timeline, whatever you needed to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always the same processes. We have all the same tools available for all these things. Insomnia, let's just say right off the get-go, right from the get-go, insomnia is horrible. Anybody who's had it knows how horrible it is. And the worst thing you can do is try to fall asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're trying harder and harder. And it's something that just has to happen naturally as your bloodstream, fills up melatonin and all these different things. So Let's talk about the causes of insomnia, and then we'll talk about the two types and some of the things you can do to maybe overcome it. The first one is mental overstimulation. I had this one when I was a kid. We discovered poker when I was a kid, just with poker chips. Me, Brian McDonald, Wayne Yanni. We play poker. We got addicted to it over and over. Okay. I remember lying in bed and just cards. Yeah. Royal flush. Okay. So, yeah, I need a jack of spades. Just would not shut down. The one I get now, still to this day, that I've had as recently as a couple of days ago, I get what the Germans call an earworm, which is an earworm, something stuck in your brain. And with me, it is always the same thing. It is my favorite Rush song.
Music.
Tom Sawyer. When that starts in my head, I got to turn the volume down in my brain right away because it'll keep going all night and interfering with my sleep.
It's probably pretty similar to when people say, oh, I was wired, right? Wired.
Yes.
And I just couldn't fall asleep because I was wired, and wired being a metaphor for, I imagine, people thinking like there's some electrical charge coming in. And
well, too much caffeine is one of the causes of this. And I used to drink coffee till late in the day, coming back from gigs, driving late at night, would sleep with no problem. But since I've cut back over the years on caffeine, now I typically have my 2 or 3 cups a day. That's it. If
in the morning.
2 in the morning, and then the one here, maybe it's a third.
It's still morning here.
Yeah. But if I have another one later today,
it'll screw you up.
It'll screw up my sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. No caffeine in the afternoon is a great model to follow.
Now, anxiety, stick them, good model, anxiety and overthinking. Yeah. Anxiety will keep you awake.
I would say for sure the times in my life that I have dealt with bouts of insomnia have always been due to not like anxiety in a bad way, but just let's say it could be even good stress. Like I'm excited about something going on.
Eustress.
And I'm constantly thinking about it. But also, it could be a stress of a situation, maybe an interpersonal situation, maybe anything like that. Well, for example, oh man, I mean, you remember a few years back when we were in London and we were dealing with a particular business problem at the time.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh man, and I slept like, I won't swear, but like that, badly.
And I am not connecting this with Charbonneau Lounge at all, and a robbery there, not at all.
Yeah, there was some stress going on for sure that affected our live training. And for about, 2 nights until it got resolved, I was just a mess and not sleeping.
Oh, it was terrible. You were just overloaded with stress trying to make our training
loop, right?
open loop.
Trying to get in touch,
trying and loop that is open is terrible.
With people to resolve this. And
I just talked over you too much.
What's going on? And bam, just massive open loop. Yeah.
Horrible. Overthinking and anxiety. That's why people on death row typically don't sleep that well.
Like it's
if you're facing the electric chair the next day, you're not going to sleep real well.
Oh, there you go.
Christmas as a kid, excitement, even positive excitement. I can remember just being exhausted Christmas Day because I'm lying awake till 3 a.m. And then, of course, you get up at 4 and try to get your parents out of bed and stuff. Even a new girlfriend, a new girl in your life, or a new guy in your life, whatever, that can trigger it. You say, oh, it's so exciting. We're going to see each other tomorrow. When I met Heather, that was all that. It just drive me crazy.
Yeah, because you're constantly, it's not even like a negative rumination kind of thing.
No.
But you're ruminating. Is ruminating a word that always implies that it's bad or just
No, not at all. Rumination comes from animals that are ruminants, like a cow.
Oh, gotcha.
Which chews the cud. So the implication, you're bringing the idea out and you're chewing it over again and again.
Brilliant. So you could be ruminating
about
over
something good.
A good thing,
sure,
or a bad thing, and having a new girlfriend in your life when you're a young man.
You said a new girlfriend?
A new girlfriend.
Okay.
I suppose you wouldn't have.
Yeah, that'll keep you awake.
Yeah, there you go.
I've heard. Now, too much screen time too. Even your phone. If you're looking at your phone a lot and it's
100%.
giving you the blue light stops melatonin, which is why in the winter. That's one of the problems that happens with people. The light has changed, and you're producing melatonin. You're getting more of the blue light and less of the red. Consequently, in the winter, people are getting seasonal affective disorder. They're getting too much melatonin in the daytime, and it's to help you stay asleep. So you want the cortisol clicking in the morning, but you want the melatonin at night. And if you're looking at your phone all the time and even on the computer, unless you have the feature where you can put it on nighttime coloration, which takes the blue end of the spectrum out, brings in the warmer tones.
It's a little bit better.
It is a little bit better. Yeah, you got to watch that though, or it'll just screw up your balance of hormones. I use a melatonin sublingual spray.
Every night?
Every night. People say you shouldn't use it every night, but you know what? I'm at an age where I just don't care. And
as long as you're using it.
As long as you keep using it. If you stop using it, then it's like stopping heroin or something.
I suppose it also would matter how much. Like if you're overusing it.
Well, I was given a couple of extra spoons.
Yeah, there you go.
But melatonin won't help you fall asleep. It'll help you stay asleep.
Yeah.
Which is
why you need to take it right about when you're going to sleep.
an hour
if you're
before
using
or right
it.
at bedtime.
Yeah.
You want to wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, though, Chris,
You just know it's going to be a good
I
day.
feel laid back and
Yeah.
peaceful and really
Chill.
positive. I just know it's a good day. Now, there's two basic types of insomnia. There's the initial insomnia, which is when you go to bed
having a hard time
and lie
falling
awake.
asleep. Yeah.
And then there's the second type, which is awakening in the
up.
night, wide awake. So the first one, Bandler had a great method for treating this. And I've had terrific success when I've told people about this. Now, this, of course, you can always do methods Chris has come up with using self-hypnosis, monitoring where your brain is going, just watching what your thoughts are. And in fact, Richard Feynman did some really interesting studies in falling asleep and being aware he was falling asleep and hearing rapping noises on the head of his bed. And he knew they weren't there, but he could hear them as clear as anything. So falling asleep, if you're lying awake for an hour before you fall asleep, I don't get that at all. I'm in bed, I go to bed, I can't remember anything. It's just morning. I mean, it really is quick, and that's a good thing. I said my dad had that gift of sleeping anywhere, unfortunately also on sentry duty during the war. Now, that's a different story. But the thing is, if you're lying awake, Bandler got 100 people and said, how do you fall asleep quickly? People who do it right away. He found out how they do it. Then he found
Model
100
their
people
strategy.
who lie awake. Yeah. And the people who lie awake flash bright colored pictures close up in their brain and comment on them in a high internal voice.
Oh,
And
okay,
it keeps
so they're
the visual
talking to
cortex in the back
themselves.
of your head
So
stimulated.
they're seeing stuff. You just wanted to whack me in the head.
I know, I did, and I
They're
did it.
seeing stuff and commenting on it.
Oh, I've got it. You know, that flight tomorrow. I've got to get F5. I've got the limousine. What time's that car going to be
See,
pulling up?
That's
Internal
probably
rapid voice.
why my freaking strategy works so well, because I ask my brain to show me stuff rather than consciously picking it.
Brilliant.
And then I comment on it, but not in a colorful, fast, vivid way. I observe it and go, oh, that's cool. Neat. And wait for something else to show up.
Nice,
And I
nice.
go, oh, yeah, neat. Like, oh, there's the sound of an orchestra. That sounds amazing. I wonder what's next.
That's
oh,
cool.
There's like a ladybug with rainbow wings. Or,
Yeah,
I don't
the
know.
flamethrower,
You
yeah.
go, oh, that's really cool. And you just get drawn into this trance, and the next thing you know, it's freaking morning.
Yeah, that's right. So I can tell you how Bandler says to treat it. Then we have to go to a commercial break.
Yes, we
So
do.
Richard Bandler said, here's how you do it. He said, the people who fall asleep readily, like me, don't flash bright pictures, don't comment on them in an internal rapid voice. Instead, we switch to the kinesthetic, the feeling system.
it, yeah.
He said, keep the room cooler. We'll get to that. Get comfortable and slow down your internal voice.
That's
Make it sleepy and tell yourself how tired and cozy you are.
It
That'll
totally
do the
makes
rest.
sense.
That
Oh.
causes your body to release sleep chemicals. That's amazing. So let's go to a commercial
Yes,
break,
friend.
Christopher.
All right. Today, we
Not
have a
commercial, but-
special report. We have a special report from Hypno North, Mayford, Ontario.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks again. It's your old pal Brado here. I want to bring you up to speed on the condition of hypnosis here in the Great White North. First of all, this isn't going to be a rant. I've just been stressing myself out with Eddard and Duder and their genius for creative lunacy and dickishness, and it's pushed my blood pressure up, and my sleep is bitch too, which is pretty freaky considering the content of the podcast. Anyway, I've not been sleeping well for about 2 weeks now, and was actually considering driving to Owen Sound to the walk-in clinic to see if I can get a prescription for some sleeping pills, get me over the hump with this cursed insomnia. The problem is I don't want to take pills. I thought if I was going to, I'd be taking cannabis gummies, which are 100% legal in Canada at your local corner dope store. And since Meaford's in Ontario and Ontario's in Canada, at least last time I checked, seemed like the way to go. So if you really consider the weirdness of it, I was deciding to take formerly illegal drugs prescribed by a dairy farmer, me, instead of good old sleeping pills prescribed by an actual medical doctor. So yesterday morning, I was up early to muck out the haymow, and Eddard and Duder saunter over in that idiot sort of way they always do, with their hands never swinging when they walk or even in their pockets. They both walk with their arms hanging straight down at their sides because some dick did it in a movie once. They liked it and copied it. But coincidentally, turns out Eddard and Duder have been growing cannabis in the basement under full spectrum lights, and by law they can each have 3 plants. So they've harvested it a few days back and then they dried it out in a low temperature oven, and then they tried it out. Well, it was so amazing, Eddard said they listened to Pink Floyd and brought it over for me to try. So I took one of the brownies they baked. It tasted pretty good. About 40 minutes later, I couldn't feel my face anymore and thought that Edward was a werewolf and Duda was some kind of transhuman hypno-weasel, and I ran and hid in the closet, which I thought was the equipment storage room at Charbonnel Lounge, and then fell asleep for about 20 effing hours. When I woke up, they were gone. I was feeling really peaceful and chill and laid back, and I knew it was going to be a good day, so I decided to forget about the doctor and buy about a dozen of these brownies from Edward, who's trying to get them into Tim Hortons so everybody in Canada can hide in cupboards so the werewolves and transhumans with greasy mullets can't get them. So this has been your old pal Brado coming at you from Hypno North Meaford, Ontario, Canada. Thanks once again, and good night.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second type of
Well, the
insomnia.
second type is the one waking up and you can't get back to sleep. This is normally around 3 a.m. If it's 3 a.m., many people find that taking Nux vomica, also known as Colabrina, in either the 12C or 30C potency helps you fall asleep again. It's expensive. A year's supply will cost you about $10.
Uh-oh.
So this is a homeopathic medicine. Give it a shot. It works for hangover too, I've heard. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying if you want to. Some people had great results with it, including me. What I've learned now is if I'm lying awake, and the 3 a.m. is the real indicator for Nux. If I wake up in the night, 4 o'clock, whatever, and I can't get back to sleep, I get out of bed. I don't lie there attempting to sleep. It's pointless. So I get up for literally about 1 hour and we'll just read something, not on a screen, and then I'll get tired and go back to bed again. And that seems to work well. Do you get that?
I have found that if I try to fall back asleep, the few times in my life that I've dealt with that kind of insomnia, because that is always the one I've never had the initial falling asleep insomnia, but I have had moments during stressful periods of my life where I would wake up usually about 3 a.m.
Yep.
And oh man, it's horrible because if it's bad, even self-hypnosis sometimes would not work for me.
I hear you.
It would start to work, but then it would come back out. I'd be like, oh, reset.
Yeah. Ross, you cut that little bad word out there, Ross.
Reset. And 3 hours would go by. I would be just starting to fall back asleep around 6. And then thankfully, if I was dead to the world asleep and my wife knew it, she wouldn't wake me up or anything, and I would wake up maybe around 8:30.
It's horrible. And you wake up exhausted because your whole sleep cycle's been screwed
really
up.
bad. Thankfully, that doesn't happen very rarely, right? But everyone has these moments.
Yeah.
Everyone, I'm generalizing, but you get
many
this.
do.
Most people have bouts of insomnia at points in their life, and that's a really bad one.
No,
but if I
it's
get
true.
up, you're right. Getting up and doing something.
Yeah.
And then until you go, you know what? Okay, I think I've had just about enough of this. Now I'll go back to bed. It could be read a book.
Yep.
It could be just get up, go downstairs, go walk around the house, anything.
Right.
Tidy
well,
up
remember,
some stuff.
remember you can reframe it and say, oh, I've been given an hour to do whatever I want.
Yes.
Reframe it as
exactly,
something.
yes.
I can practice magic or something.
The other thing that has worked for me is to put a podcast on. Something that is a learning podcast, not just humor or whatever. I want something that is going to cause me to have to follow explanations. Like a good one would be The Drive with Dr. Peter Attia. It can be quite biologically technical. He's explaining medical science stuff. It could be how cholesterol works or anything like this. Well, there's no way that I'm going to be able to chase all of this as if I'm wide awake. I'm still tired. So what'll happen is usually I put one AirPod in or something and just lie on my side. And as I'm listening to this podcast, maybe 20 minutes goes by and I'm gone because I cannot follow all of this. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. And it stops me from starting to have those, exactly what you said, Bandler described as the problem, forming these images and talking about them and commenting on them.
Commenting rapidly.
It gives you something, that is George Miller, 7 plus or minus 2 things you can think about at the time.
Right.
Well, if this podcast that's highly educational is taking up all those chunks, you basically cannot maintain the pattern that was causing the insomnia.
Brilliant. And you got to be careful though, because sleep can become anchored. People who read in bed, my wife used to read in bed before she fell asleep. It got to the point she'd be anywhere, start reading, she'd start falling asleep. The brain's saying, oh, time to sleep, you're reading.
Yes.
It becomes anchored. I had it anchored to my cat Raja, who I don't have anymore, my Bengal who passed away a few years ago. He'd lie on the floor and I'd play with him on the floor, rub him. I'd sit on the floor. And I started doing that at nighttime, just before bed. So he would, and then it got to the point in the daytime, Heather would say, play with the cat. He's going crazy. He'd sit on the floor and I start yawning.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about sleepwalking. and Victor Race.
Okay.
Marquis de Puysegur was doing classical mesmerism, branching into hypnosis in the early days. He was a student of Mesmer. And Victor Race was the guy he was working on. Race did not know you're supposed to do the funky chicken and twitch and have a convulsion that mesmerism brought on. He was not exposed to it, so he had no preconceptions. Instead, his blink reflex stopped. His eyes were staring. He became insensible to other people.
Insensitive.
Insensitive, very insensitive. Say comments that would hurt people's feelings, yeah. But anyway, he became insensible to stimulus. And Puysegur looked at this and thought, he looks like a sleepwalker. So he named it somnambulism. That's how we get the term. Somnambulism is sleepwalking. They're not really the same thing, though. But the interesting thing is sleepwalking also happens in NREM sleep. It's not in the light state.
Interesting.
I checked this, and there's a mythology. If someone's sleepwalking, don't wake them up. And it's a complete mythology. There's two of these. One is if you die in a dream, you'll die in real life. Yep. How would anybody know? You go dig the corpse up and what killed you? What were you dreaming about just before you dropped dead? It's crazy. And the other one is don't wake up a sleepwalker. Well, you want to do it gently. You don't want to grab them, shake them by the neck and say, wake up. Of course not.
Well, it's sort of like you wouldn't want to do that to someone in trance, right? In a deep trance.
Exactly the same.
You say, blinding headaches and stuff after that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, sleepwalking can be triggered by stress. It's most common in kids who get over it over time.
So it shouldn't happen because of the pontine tegmentum shutting down those
No,
neurotransmitters.
that's
you
right.
shouldn't be walking, but just like the reverse order can happen so that you have sleep paralysis.
Remember, it's in NREM sleep. So that the
you're not
pontine
supposed to be
tegmentum,
dreaming there.
you're dreaming and you're locked down. You're not. You're just running these automatic things, I guess. I don't know how.
So it's not really a dream. Yeah,
No.
it's just a pattern.
You're asleep and you're doing normal activities.
That's bizarre.
People get up and cook and they do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Then wake up and wonder who's rearranged the furniture.
That's
in
true,
the night.
because it's not a dream, because you're not like paddling a canoe down the grocery aisle using champagne bottles as oars or something. Yeah.
That's always a good one. Now, stress can cause it too, and even sleep deprivation can start to create sleepwalking.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that when we get to the metaphor. So let's give some solid value here. How do you prep for sleep to avoid insomnia, all of these things?
If you stuck around this long watching and listening,
wake up, folks.
Now we're going to give you some useful tips to prep for sleep, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Start to slow down an hour before you go to bed, meaning slow down in what you do, slow down in the stimulation, and begin to mentally prepare yourself.
Yes.
Turn off the TV and the computer, we said. And, I told Chris that my friend Ryan, turn off your Wi-Fi at night, getting on my wife's case, unplug it. It's going to keep you awake. Well, I proved it. I wouldn't tell her if it was plugged in or not, and I get her to commit. How'd you sleep last night? Well, was it plugged in? I'm not saying.
Yeah.
And it was just
his
suggestion. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Use the night settings on your computer, if you have it, to change the spectrum of light that's coming in.
Yeah.
A warm bath before bed. If you're really distraught, it can slow everything down. Warm milk or Ovaltine is a classic before bed drink.
Warm milk because of the
tryptophan
in milk. Yeah, I believe that's what it is.
Yes.
When you warm it. See, also the warmness of it just has the soothing quality. So yeah, I don't drink milk.
No, I don't either.
But it can work. It's worth considering. We're not telling you to do it.
We're just telling you things that people have found to work. Jin Shinjitsu, a lifesaver for me. I do it every night. Grip my thumb, grasp it, not squeeze so tight it hurts. Hold it until I can feel a pulsation. I can get it instantly now because I got all the meridians open. And it pulses. Let it pulse for about a minute. Then do it with the first finger. Do it with each of your fingers in turn. Then your thumb in the center of your palm. This is the hardest one to feel. It's the deepest level. Feel for a pulse. You'll feel it in the thumb and in the palm. You always feel it in both hands. When you've got that for about a minute, go back to the thumb and do that again.
Cycling through.
Cycle through. Wait till you feel a pulse. Let it pulse for about 20, 30 seconds. Go to the next one. This is unbelievable. The nights I do this, watching TV with my wife before bed, I'll do this for maybe 20 minutes. When I go to bed, bang, I'm out completely. So doing this with the melatonin works great for me. Where it's legal, cannabis can help you sleep. CBD can help you sleep. If you're going to use cannabis, make sure you're getting primarily indica, which is in the couch, instead of sativa, which is sparky. And, well, that Pink Floyd's amazing. Let's go to a party. It'll wake you up too much. I can say all this because we're in Canada. And in Canada, recreational cannabis is legal. There's government, authorized stores. You can walk down to the corner store and buy dope. So we've admitted it. You can do that.
You can, apparently. Yes.
We're not telling you to do it. In fact, Canada was notice Canada and cannabis sound so similar.
They do, yeah.
Canada was the second country in the world where countrywide you can buy recreational
Spending a heck
cannabis.
of a lot of time.
I know. I'm trying to get out of this loop and I don't know how. Help me.
Here, let's talk about Herbal tea.
Yeah, herbal tea. Now, some people like valerian. They mistakenly say, oh, it's similar to Valium. It's nothing like it. Valerian is a herb. For most people, it helps them relax and sleep. You just brew it and drink a cup. For me, it doesn't. About maybe 10 or 15% of people, it actually makes their brain more sparked and wired. So valerian does not work for me. Yeah. If you take any herbal things to sleep, check. If it keeps you awake, it's probably got valerian in. And it may put you to sleep like a dog. That's not a very good thing, but you know what I mean. Hops are terrific. Hops are another thing they use to give flavor to beer. Hops have an interesting side effect, and we'll get to that in a second. You can also use skullcap, another herb. Chamomile, another one. You can mix and match them. Find what causes you to relax. They won't help you. They won't put you to sleep, but they will help you relax. Darkening the room. I can't sleep in a bright room. It'd be like sleeping in an operating theater. I use, when I nap every afternoon, I have a blackout mask I put on and grab the cat and conk out for 20 to 30 minutes.
It's a good point. Some people say that they need to even put tape over little LEDs on alarm clocks and stuff like that.
Wow.
I don't find that makes any bit of difference for me, but I don't want freaking street lights coming in through my window.
Right.
I want the curtains closed.
Yes. Or the flash of a nuclear blast.
There you go. That would probably be bad too.
Worst. Yeah. Even the worst thing. Now, no phone next to your bed. I think that's important. I'm not talking about landline. I'm saying keeping your iPhone or your Android phone next to your bed.
No beeping.
No, nothing.
Yeah.
It's not a great idea. And drop the room temperature. This is hops again, because hops cause your body temperature to drop.
Oh, so would actually sleeping with fewer sheets.
Which I do. Yeah. I sleep completely uncovered for about the first half hour. Your body temperature must drop in order for you to go to sleep, which is important. And it explains why on hot summer nights, it can be really hard to fall asleep.
You know what really helps too for a lot of people is having a fan, even because the fan will give you the white noise sound, but it'll also just the blowing of cool air keeps you cooler. I think it increases. My kids both use a fan all night long.
Yep.
We have a fan blowing on us, not high, just gentle breeze. It's great.
Do you have the ceiling fan?
No.
Yeah, I could be afraid of that because I'd be waking up and I think it was like a helicopter and I was back in Saigon or something.
None of that. My wife likes the fan more intensely than I do, so we put it on her side of the bed, and then it just sort of blows. It's on the floor. It's a little fan.
Just drifts across. Just keeps the air stirred up.
Yeah, she likes it more. And I still feel a bit what comes across, and then the dog always moves, behind the shield of somebody's body so that the dog's not cold.
We had the cat in the bed last night. He's such a bed cat. I was uncomfortable for huge amounts. He just sits and he won't move. He digs in. It's just interesting.
Gets mad
so
at you.
So now let's talk about, it's the one I learned from Chris, and it's brilliant. Do not skimp on the price of a bed.
100%.
Chris said, your eyes, your bed, your shoes, these are things you do not skimp on quality.
Things that you spend a lot of time doing. What's really something you do all the time? Well, you sleep every day. So you should have a good mattress, right?
Yeah.
You probably walk a lot. Therefore, get good shoes. Don't walk in crap shoes. You use your eyes a lot. Therefore, maybe it's not a good idea to buy dollar store sunglasses, right? Look through high quality lenses. If you spend a lot of time on a computer or something, like actually we use these iPads all the time.
Yeah.
So buy a good one, right?
This is it. Yeah, get the quality for the things you're going to use all the time. And a note on the sunglasses thing. Little kids especially, don't buy them cheap sunglasses.
Yeah.
Because if there is no UV filtering, the sunglasses actually cause their pupils to open. And then you're letting more UV and it's terrible. It's really bad for kids. So be kind to them. Don't watch the news before bed. Don't fill your head with all kinds of horrible images of people being, buried alive in earthquakes and things. It's a terrible thing to put in your mind. Before bed, you want to be thinking about things that are pleasant.
And what about music? Would you say maybe not a good idea to have like loud rock on, but maybe instrumental, piano?
I have Dan Gibson, the Canadian guy who's since passed away. He has all his Solitudes recordings combined with wave sounds and rain and nature sounds and stuff. Although lately, I read before bed. I've been reading an interesting novel by C.S. Cody, but before bed now, I don't even put the Dan Gibson on some nights. I put on calm radio, I have thunderstorm, and I add rain in a window and a bit of downpour in a lake and just tweak it like Jack the Tweaker. And I sit there and just hearing the rain in the background, and it calms my brain because I'm glorified.
So experiment with audio that may help you sleep better. That would be a good idea.
Right. Learning breathing exercises from yoga or qigong, shifting your breathing slower, more abdominal,
Any
deeper.
breathing that will activate the parasympathetic nervous system,
Yes.
which generally means inhaling and then exhaling for longer,
Slowly.
nice and slow. There we go. And
And
also,
when you do that,
when we had Dan Kendall on as our guest
Yep.
trainer, we were talking about unhinging the jaw.
yes,
Also helps,
which
in-
shuts off the internal dialogue
So if
too.
you catch yourself kind of not grinding your teeth or anything, but get used to noticing if you are clenching at all.
Oh man, you wish you hadn't said that. You just brought a memory back.
And
You
then-
clench your teeth.
And just relax. If you can, I had a nighttime grinding problem. My dentist told me.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do I do? Well, we can get you a mouth guard thing. I'm like, screw that. I'm a hypnotist.
I couldn't
I'll
do
just-
that. I think I was choking.
I
all
started
night.
using self-hypnosis regularly to
Yep.
overcome this. And what happened is I immediately, not immediately, but within a little while, I started noticing when I was clenching. Just not even clenching tight, just
Yeah.
tension. I would notice the tension and immediately that would be my signal.
Now
to let
that's
it go.
interesting. I use
And I
self-hypnosis.
see you looking at your watch. So
No,
we're
we're
gonna
good.
wrap up
I
this
use
soon. Yeah.
self-hypnosis too to stop the clenching of the teeth, the jaws at night. But I
Unhinged.
didn't do it the way you did. I did it to install a program so I never listened to my dentist. Scary and
hilarious.
so clever. Now look,
That's really good.
my Aunt Sheila ground her teeth so loud you wouldn't believe it. As a kid, we're all at near, Lake Ontario near Belleville, like all near Thousand Islands. And
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it was really nice, but we rented a cottage, and me and my mom and Aunt Sheila and her two boys, the one Dale who burnt to death, Sheila's gone too now. And in the night, we'd wake up and hear this horrible sound. You know what it sounded like? The big kitchen matches, like someone's scraping those.
And she was
Sheila
grinding
grinding
her
your
teeth?
teeth so
Oh,
loud you could
that's
hear it in the
horrible.
other room, Chris.
So relaxing your jaw,
Yeah.
focusing your attention
And
on
hiding
that,
the
which
kitchen
of course
matches.
leads into, I know you have a point here on self-hypnosis.
That'll work
you
too.
can apply self-hypnosis. Just a quick point that the self-hypnosis course that we have is actually included in both memberships that we sell. One is the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. The other is the Personal Growth Membership. Whichever one you choose, you get easy self-hypnosis. It's
Nice.
worth learning this stuff.
Well thought out, and there's hypnosis tracking it, she said.
Then let's say some
We've said no
don'ts.
caffeine, but let's just talk
Yeah.
about red wine. No red wine. If you have sleep
Generally,
disturbance.
no alcohol a couple hours before bed is a good idea. It's not
Generally,
a good
yeah.
idea to have alcohol in your system when you're falling asleep. It'll elevate your heart rate.
Right.
It'll screw up your sleep.
And the red wine especially because the tannins
Tannins,
are close
the
to
histamine.
the molecule of histamine.
Yeah.
And histamine will...
So stay away
you
from
up.
the caffeine and avoid alcohol too close to bed.
Two more final points, and we're done here. Don't always be available to other people. Oh, so-and-so at work, they phoned me at 11:15 last night. That's the mistake,
No.
that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I'd be saying, never, ever phone me past 8 o'clock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Don't let people disturb you. You do not have to give people your sleep time. Like I said, don't phone me late unless it is literally a
An
matter of life and death.
emergency, yeah.
Like if it's someone's broken their leg, well, you take them to the hospital. Tell me about it the next day. Now, the other one, which of course brings to mind Jay Flesher being Rupture Boy right away. Now, the other one is avoid the use of alarms if you can.
If
now,
you
I
can,
understand in
yeah.
a lot of, if you can build in a pattern where you're waking up generally the same time, you won't need an alarm. That's ideal because your brain will learn to close your
Yeah.
sleep cycle off when it's time to wake up. But every time
100%,
you wake up
100%.
with an alarm, remember this, every time you use an alarm, you are sleep deprived.
Guaranteed.
Because your
you
brain
didn't
has
wake
not
up on your
woken
own.
you up on purpose.
Yeah.
It's been forced to wake you up in the middle of a sleep cycle. So that pretty well covers it. And again, our medical disclaimer, this
We are
is
not
all
doctors.
information. We're not doctors.
We
We're
are
not
also
witches.
not witches.
And we're not telling you what to do. We're just telling you what we do. So don't bother
Lucci.
writing. Now, Chris, we have an empowering question and then a quick MetaFive.
Let's do it. Here you go. Ask yourself, what is the quality of my sleep and what am I prepared to do now to improve the quality and duration of sleep?
Excellent. MetaFive, one better than a metaphor. The camera stuck in my throat. Do you know this?
Yes.
Okay. Many years ago, I was a young teenager, maybe 14, 15. My dad had his ham shack where he did his, his Morse code and everything just at night, right near my room. It was, he opened up a closet, made it bigger, put his radio gear in there. So he was often in there late at night. So one night he's in there working and he hears me coughing in my sleep, choking. So he comes in my room to see if I'm all right. I'm sitting up in bed and he's like, "Why? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm going, pointing at my mouth. I'm going, He's like, he thinks he had photographic chemicals. He used to do his own developing, sodium hyposulfate and all these things in his office there. And he thought I was trying to tell him that in my sleep, I'd sleepwalked in and was drinking the photographic chemicals. Like, So open your mouth. He looks. And I'd been eating Clorettes candy, which are green.
Okay.
He sees my tongue is all green. Now it's and then I suddenly go, Oh, I'm all right. I was dreaming. I dreamed. I had a Polaroid swinger camera where you pull it out and it develops instantly. I dreamed that the developer spreader, this thing of wire inside it, was caught in my throat. And I was trying to tell him, I'm going,
I got a camera stuck in my throat.
Well, that was the first time. One night I dreamed I had a stick of incense stuck in my throat. And these would be very vivid. And I woke my parents up one night. I had a deck of cards caught in my throat. I'd been playing cards a lot. They're all curled around each other in a tube. So I go in the room, I wake them up. And my mom's a 6. And so, Mom, wake up. What's wrong? What's wrong? I said, don't panic. So right away she panics. I said, I know you're going to think I'm dreaming, but I have a deck of cards caught in my throat. My mom says, oh, thank God. Like that's right. So my dad gets out of bed. He knows he just humors me until I wake up. So we're in the bathroom. I'm standing looking in the bathroom mirror, still asleep, going, see, the King of Hearts is at the top, right? My dad's going, oh, yep, I can see that. And then I just sort of went, right, that's that. Good night, Dad. He goes, good night, Mike. Goes back to bed. I did
weird.
that so many times. If something caught my throat in the night, I don't get that anymore. And that's probably a good thing.
Thanks, everybody. This has been episode 228 of the Brain Software Podcast with Mike Mandel.
Yes.
And I'm Chris Thompson. And we encourage you to sleep well and have a freaking awesome life. And if the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy or the personal growth membership that we offer will help you live that better life, then go and sign up because it'll be the best thing you ever did.
That's right.
Thanks again.
And
Good night.
night.